Hello and welcome to Unclouded Eye. My name's Ashley Brooks.
And I'm Ty Gowan.
And we're your source for the astrological forecast and some cosmic chit chat.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, we are. We're here.
We're here. And I brought a cactus and my blue mug this time.
Oh my gosh. If you listened to last week's Sports Curse episode, Ty told the whole story of how he procured this blue mug. And if you haven't listened to it, you should go back because I feel like honored to be in the presence of this blue mug.
It saved my life, this blue mug. I mean, if we're being like the most dramatic, I didn't have to eat Tostitos for the rest of the semester, like sophomore year.
I mean, life saved.
Yeah, honestly.
As an 18-year-old or 19-year-old, life saved.
That was honestly my diet for a lot of college.
Tostitos?
Tostitos and salsa, because they filled me up. And I considered it a vegetable. And I had no money for anything else. So
I was subsiding on like microwavable burritos, which I actually brought one today. Like it's a throwback, you know?
Yeah, you're like, I'm not over it.
Yeah.
I'm not better than.
I was trying to be vegetarian in like 2005 and there just weren't many options. So.
I dipped my toe in there with you around that time too. And it was like, you really got to love a black bean burger.
You got to love it. You got to love salad. Just salad and not much else.
Yeah, maybe we can save our chit chat for the next time. Let's talk about some vegetarian stuff right now, like what you've experienced.
Yeah, I mean, what I've experienced, what I've gone through.
Well, because it's like you inspired me in high school. I think I tried to start to move that way in high school, and just like the products weren't there. And I remember you turned me on to the corn chicken nuggets.
Yep.
Which were so good for their time period, but like nowadays, like there's so many products out there that like don't take all the spit out of your mouth when you eat them.
Yeah, they're very absorbent.
They're very absorbent.
The corn, like they have like these chicken like patties almost, or like it's like a fake chicken breast. Like those are really good. Like they've stepped it up with those. But yeah, like I gave up red meat in high school. Like that was the first thing to go. And I just remember we took that class. We took this class in high school called Taste of America. And it was all about like cooking in different, like the southern regions. And like, so we learned about history, but also cooking. And I'll never forget when it was you, me, and producer Nick, and they slapped a brisket on the table and we had to massage seasoning into it.
For 45 minutes.
Yeah, I just remember looking at you guys over the table as we're massaging this. None of us are going to eat it.
None of us eat
it.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was rough.
It was so rough. But here's a fun story for you guys. So our school would do block days, and which meant that you did half the classes, but they were all twice as long. And the thought of once we had committed to barbecue class and realized that it wasn't just about music and it wasn't about like movies, it was mostly
about meat. And yeah, we're both not
all
into
three
that.
Of us were
all three of us
not eating red meat by then. You know, like we'd all crossed it off our list. Nick hadn't eaten meat in his life,
which is amazing.
But yeah, Nick is really a pioneer. But I would make myself purposely sick, you guys.
It was so hard to sit through like 2 hours of this class. Like
it was brutal, and so it coincided that Wednesdays were the afternoons were all Taste of America barbecue class.
Right after lunch.
And it was also Wednesdays were Pazzo Bread Wednesdays at our school. And I didn't really understand my intestinal tract by then. And so...
Oh, you understood. You knew what you were doing.
I knew how to game it. I didn't understand that like it was probably a medical issue. You know, like so...
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Pazzo Bread is like... It's kind of like a breadstick, like a super cheesy, oily breadstick.
Yes. So imagine the worst version of that because it's high school.
It's cafeteria.
Yeah.
Food.
So I don't know what they were putting into it.
It was so greasy. I remember putting a napkin on it and it would just be drenched.
You needed like a bounty. And you had to go through a couple of them. But
blotting your Pazzo bread before you eat it.
Long story short, Ash and I realized that it was like clockwork that 45 minutes after I would eat this, I would become irrevocably ill. And it would be about that, which would time it out into about 15, 20 minutes into Taste of America. And so I have an easy pass to get out of Taste of America is that I can make myself actually sick, and I would do it. And I remember like it worked a couple times where Ash also had to leave school to
like,
escort me home.
I'd
like,
have to drive you, or I had to bring you to the nurse's office. But then
we'd
eventually
never come back.
that excuse would run out.
And
you know,
we switched over to college visits. Remember, we went to a college meeting. I think it was for Dartmouth College.
I wasn't getting into Dartmouth,
and I didn't even want to go. But we definitely sat through the hour-long potential student stay so that we could get out of Taste of America.
I could sit through 40 minutes of Taste of America. I could not sit through 2 hours of it.
Especially when it would be like 2 hours of just like hitting a steak with a hammer.
Yeah.
Or the brisket, literally, for meat people out there.
I'm sure a lot of people are like, I would love to take this class.
They're like, you guys don't know what reward you had, but literally rubbing a salty, spicy mixture into meat and having the teacher coming over and be like, it's not sweating enough. You keep doing it until it sweats more. I remember that, like, just being like, well, the meat has to sweat, and it's going to be another half an hour. And how many times did we have to watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, we watched it, I think, at least 2 times that I saw, but I also missed some of the block periods.
I was with you.
Yeah. So, that was my first foray into vegetarianism, and then I gradually cut everything out. I kind of went, like, step by step down the line. Red meat was gone by high school. Like pork and like chicken and turkey were gone by like early 20s. Then fish was the last to go. And then I realized I was allergic to dairy. So I was like, might as well just be full vegan at this point. So
yeah. Power to you.
Yep. So that just gradually happened. And you know, it was funny because I used to go to California a lot when I was a teenager, and they had much more options out there. So depending on where you lived in the country, maybe it would have been much easier to be a vegetarian. In Maine in like 2004, it wasn't happening.
Things get here last.
Yeah, which is why I still ate fish at that point, just because there weren't many choices. I mean, also I lived with my parents and, you know, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. But now there's so many options. It's the golden age of vegetarianism and veganism, and
we're in it. And loving Beyond and Impossible products right now.
I will rub, some seasoning into a Beyond patty.
I won't even do that for 45 minutes.
No, not for 45 minutes. It was cold and wet. The brisket was cold and wet. And I just remember looking at, like, because I was sitting across the table from you and Nick, just looking into your eyes, and everyone just looked so uncomfortable and disturbed. And
I can still feel it.
Yeah. Yep. It was not it.
Anyway, crash into the astronomical forecast this week from brisket rubbing to reading the stars.
To your Valentine's Day forecast.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you rub the brisket for the one you love. Make it sweat. Make it sweat.
Okay, so we're just going to focus on like the biggest transits for the week, and then we're going to do a little spotlight on Pisces season. Pisces season technically isn't starting till next week, but we have something very special planned for next week, so I wanted to make sure we had time to talk about this.
Good call.
Yeah. So on Wednesday, February 12th, we have a full moon in Leo at 8:53 a.m. Eastern time, and that is my sign, so I'm very excited for this. So the sun is at 24 degrees Aquarius, the moon's at 24 degrees Leo, and this is opposing Mercury. Mercury is conjunct the sun during this time. So the moon is opposing Mercury and squaring Uranus. So there's kind of a shocking element to this. There could be some surprises coming up with this full moon. It could feel unexpected, like there's stagnancy breaking up. And with the sun conjunct Mercury, we might be experiencing some very sudden ideas coming in. But there could be some element of instability or chaotic energy coming up around this full moon.
Okay.
So a full moon in Leo is really good for self-expression. It's good for like manifesting creative endeavors and for really being who you are in the world. But there could be some element of feeling like you need to show that like right then, right now, so there could be a lot of people who are just needing attention during this moon.
Okay, that might be that's a rough moon then.
Yeah, it's a little tense. It's mostly because of the aspects. A full moon in Leo could be really lovely, but the aspects are a little tense around it. So there's a lot of need to be heard. There's a lot of like, look at me, see me. This is on the 12th. So this is a couple days before Valentine's Day. So there could be like some need of like, pick me, like, look at me. It's very much like showy and a little over the top in its expression. So You know, I think that if there are needs to be heard or be seen, you know, it's totally okay to, you know, make that be known. But this is a little, I don't know. It's just a little like attention seeking.
Yeah,
In like a way that's not great.
I don't love it.
No. So it's more just like if you need attention, maybe like ask your friends to go do something rather than being like, look at me. Like you never talk to me, you know,
Yeah.
like maybe just
I
dial
think
it.
probably one of my biggest triggers is that pick me mentality. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm
Dial the drama down. I mean, I'm a Leo. I have a Leo stellium. So like, I feel like I'm not dramatic in life, but I'm dramatic sometimes in like how I express things.
Okay.
You know, like,
I wouldn't call you dramatic.
would you?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think I am in a lot of ways, but for instance, like I stubbed my toe, and I remember when I first moved in with Jay, I stubbed my toe one time. The noise I made, he came running because he thought I was dying.
Ash. Okay.
So it's things like that, you
okay.
know, and I'm like, I just have to like let it out. Like,
He's howled like the lion.
yeah, and he's
Leo.
like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, so now he's learned. He knows that, like, you know, we gotta express.
Just wait until, you know, he hears the body hit the floor. You
Yeah,
know?
or like I'm just like, I need to go to the hospital at that point. Then he'll know. But yeah, so I'm a little dramatic in some ways, I guess. So that's the Leo energy. This is a full moon in Leo, so it's Leo heightened, Leo times 3.
Okay.
So have fun with that. You know,
I'll know what to look out for now.
yeah. On February 14th, on Valentine's Day, Mercury is moving into Pisces at 7:06 a.m. Eastern time, and it will be there till March 3rd. And Mercury in Pisces is very imaginative. It's whimsical. It's playful. It's very fantasy based, good for like writing fantasy, good for getting sucked into other worlds. Imagination is soaring. It is not logical. It is not rational. This is not the time to do your taxes. It's not the time to do all of the detail oriented work. This is a time for dreaming and for being abstract and artistic.
Doing your Lord of the Rings marathon because that is winter and it's time to do that again.
It is time to do the extended editions.
Yeah, Erin doesn't let anything less than the extended edition.
All 3 in one day.
We tried that before, and it was not fully enjoyable because it is the whole day. Like
it's like 14 hours.
Yeah, it's like it is. You wake up and you start the breakfast with hobbits, and you end the night at Mordor. Like
it's a lot.
Breaking it up over the weekend is much more enjoyable.
It's more palatable. Yeah, I agree. And then you can do all the Hobbit movies too.
Do you like those?
I mean, I like them because I like any fantasy, but they're not as good as the Lord of the Rings.
That's well said.
Also, because The Hobbit is like a pretty short book, and somehow they got 3 movies out of it.
That's
like
the
some
problem.
liberties were taken.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's the issue. But I will literally watch like anything that's fantasy related, even if it's bad. Like that's just where I'm at. Like I will watch anything supernatural, paranormal. I just don't. Well, like fiction shows, not reality shows.
Same here. I will. I'll eat all that fiction alive.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's bad. Like I'll have it on in the background while I'm doing other stuff if it's bad. But I just love anything like that.
Yeah, I like to escape.
Yep. So this is perfect for that. Okay, now let's talk about Pisces because Mercury is moving into Pisces and the sun's going to be moving into Pisces on the 18th of February. We're just getting there a little early just so all you Pisceans have your information because next week we are doing something kind of special. So just want to make sure that we get this in here.
Okay, community manager Erin is a Pisces.
She
so
is.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so their element is water. Their modality is mutable, which means that they end a season. So we have cardinal signs, which start a season, fixed signs, which are in the middle of it, and mutable signs end a season. So there's some changeability to them. There's some kind of like go with the flow type energy, you know, that type of thing. Their ruling planet is Neptune, you know, makes perfect sense.
Yep. As we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Having a little bit of that whimsy in there.
Yeah.
Flow.
Their symbol is the fish. Their opposite sign is Virgo. So Virgos are very analytical. They're very mental and they like to be perfectionists. Pisces are very go with the flow. They're watery. They're empathetic. They're intuitive.
That's interesting because community manager Erin is she is a Pisces Virgo.
Yeah, Virgo moon. Yeah, she was born on a full moon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's cool. Both of you were born on a full moon.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, she's got a little bit of both worlds, you know, best of both worlds there. Their day of the week is Thursday. Animals ruled over all fish and aquatic creatures.
Okay.
Yeah. So gods of the sea. Their gemstones are aquamarine, which is the March birthstone, ocean jasper, and anhydro agate, which is a really cool stone.
I want one of those.
I have one, and it's really cool. Like, you can't actually hear the water, but you can kind of see it inside.
Can you see, does it have a bubble in it that moves around?
This one doesn't. I had one in the past that did. That was really cool, but I ended up giving it to somebody. But this one is really neat. It's like got like a craggy rock like bottom, and then it has like almost like glassy top to it, like agate. It's like light blue with like dark blue on the outside, and so it's like 1,000-year-old water inside.
That's
like
so cool.
Many thousands of years.
I just think that's so fascinating.
Yep. Their colors are pale green and turquoise. Their number is 3, and their personality traits are receptive, intuitive, changeable, and compassionate. So Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. It's the last sign of the zodiac. So there are some people that believe Pisces has a little bit of the energy of all signs in them.
Okay.
And at the very least, they are very adaptable. They are really good at reading energy of other people. They tend to be, many of them are very wise, you know, especially like healthy Pisces that are really in touch with who they are. They are very non-judgmental people typically, you know.
And they're like the opener for the best sign of the zodiac.
Oh my gosh.
Like the opening band.
Technically they close out the show.
Well, that's because they got to close out the show before it opens again, and it's amazing and perfect.
Okay. So Pisces celebrities, we got a lot of people here. Musicians, we have Kurt Cobain, George Harrison of the Beatles, Rihanna, Olivia Rodrigo, Johnny Cash, Nina Simone, Fats Domino, Seal, Kiss from a Rose, and Billy Corgan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So good variety of people there. They all tend to write more like emotionally driven music. You know, Pisces, I think, are in touch with their feelings. So there's more of like an emotional rawness, like especially like Kurt Cobain and Nina Simone. Like you can really hear it in their vocals, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so.
Actors, we have Elizabeth Taylor, Bruce Willis, Millie Bobby Brown, Jean Harlow, Drew Barrymore, and Daniel Craig.
Oh, Bond.
Yeah, exactly. So also kind of random spattering of people.
Yeah, there's not like a singular trait that pulls all those people together, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then historical figures / other, we have Alexander Graham Bell, Albert Einstein, Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Michelangelo, George Washington, Shaq, and Mr. Rogers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So some.
I don't know why that excited me so much.
Mr. Rogers and Steve Irwin are like such sweethearts,
right.
You know, like just gentle souls that.
I think that's what,
Yeah, like, can they both be my uncle? Like,
yeah, Pisces should be your uncle. Yeah, is what we've understood.
Right. But there's also a lot of creativity, people that were ahead of their time, just a lot of like intuitive. It's weird to me that George Washington is a Pisces. That feels kind of random, but you know.
Yeah, I would have put him as like not that it matters what I think, but like I think he should have been born as a Taurus.
Yeah, like an earth sign for sure.
Yeah.
He's got earth sign energy.
I don't know why I just took that stance so hard all of a sudden. They're just like, no, he can't be a Pisces. That throws everything off.
Pisces. I know it doesn't. I mean, I didn't know him. Maybe he was. Maybe he was maybe he cried a lot. We don't know.
Yeah, they didn't put that. Martha Washington didn't put that in her journals.
Yeah, right.
Good old George cried again today. He's really sad about leaving the England behind, but he doesn't want to show it.
Yeah, he has a lot of dreams. He writes them all down.
He's got a lot of dreams, but he's got no teeth.
He had wooden teeth?
Yeah, can you imagine? I've heard that was...
That sounds like an urban legend.
Yeah, I don't think that was real. I think it was actually like, unfortunately, like slave teeth.
Okay.
I know.
I was going from laughing to my
I
face
just ended it. Okay.
I was just like, oh, okay. All right.
We don't love.
Let's not give space to that.
Choices. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Moving on. What is the theme we have today?
Presidents? I'm sorry. We're going back in.
Okay.
We're going to do presidential curses this week.
All right.
I enjoyed the curse topic last week.
Yes, so that was a lot of fun.
A little bit different, but not so different. Same, but different. So we're going to do the Curse of Chief Tecumseh. Okay. Have you heard of that one at all?
I've heard the name, but I don't know much about it.
Cool. So I want to do, hopefully, the appropriate thing and not hammer down on the curse of that left by an Native American chief, right?
Yeah.
So let's give a little bit of bio to Chief Tecumseh himself, so that like we can talk about his accomplishments and not what he's blamed for.
Yeah,
right?
Lovely.
So let's honor him a little bit, learning this life of the Shawnee chief who grew up watching his homeland in what is now Ohio become gobbled up by white settlers. Chief Tecumseh opposed the United States government's expansion into native lands and sought to unite Native American tribes against white expansion.
Yep.
Love it. Tecumseh watched his father die in a battle against colonists in 1774, and then his older brother died in a similar way in 1792. And after joining with another Shawnee chief, he faced a great defeat of his own in 1794 and 1795, which unfortunately ended up making it so that he did lose most of his tribe's homelands in Ohio. But he fought for them like this whole time. That's what he should be known for.
Yeah.
He's like a great chief who really tried to protect his family, his history, and his people against white expansion.
That's wonderful.
So he and his followers joined the British side of the war in 1812, and unfortunately, shortly thereafter is where Tecumseh died in the Battle of the the Thames. I don't know what we call it here. Battle of the Thames, because that's
Thames.
Yeah,
Thames. I believe.
Okay. And that happened on October 5th, 1813. White settlers are horrific and brutalized his body, so it was presumably lost. Although in 1941, there was a ceremony to honor him, his tribe, and his sacrifices, because he really did fight to preserve their life,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he is mostly only known for the curse against presidents in general. So the curse, unfortunately, wasn't like, again, it wasn't like Babe Ruth uttered this curse. And I think that there's an idea that with Native American curses or whatever, it's this grand proclamation of ancient tribal magic.
Yeah, right. There's like a weird mystical element to it, which, I don't think that's fair.
I don't think it's fair either, because like I was reading for that, looking for that moment, because that's drama, right?
Yeah.
That's just like white ideation.
We even have one of those in Maine with the Saco River.
The Saco River, exactly.
Yeah, there's a river here in Maine, and there's this legend about it that every year it has to claim a certain amount of white men or white people.
3 white men every year.
Yeah, and I think it's held pretty much like at least 3 people have drowned in it, but it's a huge river.
It's a huge river.
It runs for like half the state of Maine, so
and into New Hampshire.
Yeah,
so it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But this curse is likely, that's just so awful to say, it's likely popularized and named by Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it gets blamed on Chief Tecumseh, who fought against William Henry Harrison, the first leader who died of the curse in the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. And the supposed curse is meant to doom a president elect every 20 years.
William Henry Harrison only was like in office for like a week, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where it kicks off. I think it was long. I think it was a year.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, it kicks off in 1840 is when he's elected. And then every 20 years of an election after that, the president will die in office is what it is. So we have 1840 is William Henry Harrison, who met the chief and his brothers in the war. He earned the nickname Old Tippecanoe because of the battle he fought in and won. Then he died later that year of pneumonia.
Right. I think he had gotten pneumonia from in his inauguration speech, he stood out on the cold without.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, because it was like a week into his like election. That's where I got that, where he stood outside and he got pneumonia because he didn't have like proper clothing for how cold it was. But he talked for like 2 hours or something, and then he gradually died of that.
Well,
so
make better choices. I don't know.
Is that a curse?
Right. Exactly. And then we have in 1880, we have James Garfield, who's elected and assassinated that same year. Similar with William McKinley, who's elected in 1900 and gets assassinated that same year. In 1920, we have Warren G. Harding, serves 3 years, then dies of a heart attack in office. 1940 is Franklin Delano Roosevelt is elected and dies in 1945 of a brain hemorrhage while still in office. 1960 is JFK, which we know what happened there.
Yes.
And then the preceding presidents, Reagan, Bush, and Biden, all survived their presidencies.
But there was an assassination attempt on Reagan.
That's what there was.
Yeah.
It just, the curse was weakening, apparently, at that point.
Yeah, like apparently they only have like 100, 200 years. Like,
yeah, maybe that's what we're learning about curses.
Curses
They really
fizzle
only have
out.
about they spittle out after 100 years or so.
You got to strengthen them if you want them to keep going.
So there's one victim of the curse who I didn't mention just now, and that is who our natal chart of the week is focused on, Ash.
I noticed we skipped, I think it was 1860.
We did skip that.
Okay.
I'm hoping that you're not so savvy on presidents that you could guess who it is.
I don't remember who this is.
Perfect. Because their birthday is February 12th, 1809. Hodgenville, Kentucky, 1654.
You mean 6:54 a.m.?
Yes, not 16. Oh my God. That's what I meant. It's 100.
That's 100%.
That's 100% it. Thank you.
Okay. So we've got an Aquarius here. They are an Aquarius sun and rising. Their moon's in Capricorn. And the first thing I noticed is everything's on the left side, the left quadrant of the chart. It's all to the left, which shows me this
Like
is
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Putting all the things in the box.
Yeah. Yes, this president is like Beyonce, and they are all on the left, which means that this is an action-oriented person. If you have most of your chart on the left side of the wheel, it denotes somebody who is very much about taking action, initiating. They tend to be somebody who is going after things. They are not sitting idly by. If you've got mostly stuff on the right side, it doesn't mean that you're just like passive. It just means you're more go with the flow. You're more about like being receptive to energy and like maybe kind of moving around it or, you know, working with it. This is all about like carving a path, doing your own thing.
I learn new astrological things every week, Ash.
I mean, me
great.
too. Like it's an endless study, you know?
I'm glad that you're doing it for us.
Yeah. my hyperfixation is helpful
It
to you.
really works out for me.
Yeah, right. So anyway, they're Aquarius energy for sure. So this is somebody who is a mover and a shaker. They were likely maybe progressive for their time, which I don't know if that's progressive now. It might not be, but it's progressive for their time. But their moon's in Capricorn. So they are somebody who is very consistent and maybe a little traditional, but more internally. Like they want things to be a little calmer, but they're willing to make things a little more chaotic to get what they want.
Yeah.
Even though that's not necessarily like how they want things. I can see their midheaven's conjunct Neptune. So having Neptune and Saturn on the midheaven, that's a strong destiny. There's
these past couple of weeks have had a lot of Neptune influence.
Yes, Neptune for sure. Neptune is squaring over to Pluto. Like it feels like this person was like more of a destined person. Like they kind of stepped into their power for sure. They created it, but there was also like a larger thing that was playing out with them.
I think so.
It was almost like a karmic obligation in life to like do whatever they did. Their Mars is squaring their moon. So there was a lot of inner turmoil that this person went through, but there was a lot of exploration too. Mars is in the 9th house in Libra, very diplomatic, wanting to meet lots of different people, wanting to help different people see eye to eye. But there's also some frustrations at the constraints that they had to work with.
Very much so.
We have Mercury conjunct Pluto. This person commanded a room, I would imagine, but there was a very gentle, maybe almost soft-spoken quality, but people would stop what they were doing.
You're just reading their bio at this point.
I'm in it right now.
Yeah, you are.
I feel
Stay in it. Stay in it.
Really nice Venus. Venus is in Aries, trining over to Neptune and Saturn. It seems like, I don't know if you know about their relationships, but it seemed good. Seemed like very supportive.
Exactly.
Very loving.
We've actually done their wife on an episode.
Okay. I mean, February 12th, I was like, okay, I know we sometimes have school off on those days.
Sometimes we do.
Sometimes we do.
Do you know who this is?
I think it's Abraham Lincoln.
It is.
Okay. You know, it's so funny because George Washington doesn't seem like a Pisces, but Abraham Lincoln seems like an Aquarius to me.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. I totally see it in the chart.
You were literally just reading
I
off.
didn't know going into it, but as I saw the Venus, I was like, is that Mary Todd?
Mary Todd Lincoln.
Yeah.
She's in here.
Yeah, she's in here.
She's doing her crazy, but god damn, they loved each other.
Yeah. you can almost just see the faded quality to like the life, the death of in this chart. It's weird because sometimes you don't see it. Like in Babe Ruth's chart, it was more like that's just what he chose that brought him to this path. But there was something bigger at play here within the Abraham Lincoln chart.
The fact that you were reading it so exact to like the biography that I read, without knowing the biography is really interesting to me. Mm-hmm.
All right, what do you have?
Well, we've got Abraham Lincoln here, and where I gave you his birth location is actually the closest geographical place to where he was actually born, which was a cabin in the woods 3 miles south of Hodgenville.
It's pretty amazing we even know the birth time.
Yeah, like literally, like that was weird to me too. Of like, oh, you're just born in the cabin, but someone remembered that exact time.
654.
So due to a lawsuit against his father's farm in the woods, the Lincolns soon had to move to Indiana, and they squatted on public land for a while. They lived there until his family could raise enough money to buy the land that they were living on and then build on it. It's just fascinating, like that stuff happened commonplace back then. So that's why I included it.
Yeah.
He really wasn't like other boys. His father wanted him out hunting, fishing, etc., but he really didn't want that type of life whatsoever. And he focused mostly on farming because it was more, I think it was a more gentle activity, and he seems like a gentle person.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Pisces. Like there's a lot of I don't know, Pisces people with a lot of Pisces tend to be gentler and more like do no harm.
Right. When I read his bio, it really seemed like do no harm was really more of his mantra. You know, it's like he just didn't want to affect people, animals, creatures in a negative way.
Oh.
His mother died at when he was 9. And his father married another woman, and her name was Sarah Bush Johnson. And he kind of viewed her as a godsend, which is great that she was like not an evil stepmother.
Yeah,
she's
a
wonderful.
nice stepmom.
And she has helped nourish and foster Abe's softer side. She saw it in him, and she wanted to bring out his kindness instead of like making him a harsh boy. You know? And she kind of treated him as if he were her own son, which I love to hear that in the 1800s.
That's so nice. Yeah, you hear a lot about like cruel parents back then. So that's nice.
In his memoir, before meeting her, he described himself as a piece of floating driftwood and said that she helped him find his own path.
Oh,
that's really sweet, right?
That's amazing.
For schooling, both of his biological parents were illiterate, and Abraham could really only attend class every so often because he needed to work.
Yeah.
So in his biography, he states that he was able to learn, or what he was able to learn and read, what he was exposed to, I should say, he devoured and retained. However, the frequency was low when he was able to do that. However, he was known to be a good-natured, yet somewhat moody child with an ability to attract friends because of his storytelling. That was an attribute to him that apparently he got from his uncle, who used to tell wild stories, and he really tried to retain that aspect of him, of what his uncle showed him.
That's cool. Which
I think is really important to become an orator and a president. You have to be able to tell stories.
Yeah, you have to be well-spoken, or you would think.
Yeah, you would think. It wasn't until his family moved to Illinois that he realized farming really wasn't going to be his future, but he didn't know what he wanted to do instead. And so we did an episode last fall on Mark Twain, and I totally saw the same type of vibe happen here for Abraham Lincoln of I have to find myself by trying a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So he worked as a rail splitter, a boatsman traveling the Mississippi to New Orleans back and forth for a while. He was a shopkeeper, a postmaster, a blacksmith, and then he finally settled on law and passed the bar exam in 1836.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's when we have the love of his life. And the biography I read kind of backs up what you just said in his natal chart of that his first love was his only love, and that was Mary Todd.
His Venus is so beautifully aspected. Like it's just, I would be shocked to hear if he had like romantic issues. You know?
It sounded like it was a one and done.
Yeah,
you know, like he just saw her and knew that was it.
That's so rare,
right?
That never happens. Like, I mean, maybe it did back then, but.
And I think I remember you saying that Mary Todd's chart was very similar in the fact that she was just like all in together. And obviously, like, his eventual death really destroyed her. So, like,
yeah, I mean, she spent so much time trying to like seek his spirit and reconnect with him.
That's kind of beautiful in a way and tragic at the same time.
Yeah. So was that what episode was that? Was that the spiritualism one that we did, or seance?
The seances,
yeah.
Other traits regarding Lincoln include his reputation as a free thinker, which you said in your chart. He despised church influence, and he wanted people's thinking to be challenged instead of just staying the status quo.
Yep. Very Aquarian of him.
This type of thinking is what allowed him to serve so well as president during the Civil War, and understand that the Emancipation Proclamation was the greatest chance of keeping the country united in the future for everyone. So how does that relate to the curse, though? Obviously, Lincoln was elected in 1860, which would have put him in the crosshairs of being the second person affected by Tecumseh's curse, which you noted that I left out earlier. And he was obviously the second president to fall to it as well, with the assassination by John Wilkes Booth while still in office.
So at what point did they put together that this might be a curse?
That's really interesting because I can only state to the name of it happened around the 1900s by Ripley's Believe It or Not. So,
right. So maybe they were looking back through time to be like, oh,
four presidents in to be like, oh, if you're elected on a 20th year or whatever, you're not going to make it. So, yeah. Do we have time for a couple Lincoln fast facts?
I think so.
So, weird things about Abraham Lincoln that I found out that, again, didn't fit the story, but I want to talk out loud, is that he made Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. Didn't know it was him that did that.
I did not know that.
So
either.
Thanks, Abe. I love getting that time off from work.
I want some pumpkin pie now.
At the age of 21, he became a wrestling champion.
What?
Yeah, I know.
He seems so like tall and lanky. Like,
imagine getting those arms around you. It would be like a spider. There's no way out.
Yeah,
like
you're
just
trapped.
Done. Have you heard about his cat named Tabby?
No.
So Tabby the cat ate dinner every night at the White House dining table with the family. They would set out a little place for him, and like literally, I've heard this before, is that the cat would come and join the family for dinner in the White House.
That is so sweet. Okay.
He likely had smallpox, but at the time that he delivered the Gettysburg Address, but pushed through it.
Wow.
And using his self-taught education, he wanted to understand the military, because like he was someone, again, that had to experience things to learn them because he didn't have that formal education as a kid.
Right.
However, because of this, he became the second president and last who ever came under fire in an active military battle. I think the first one must have been George Washington.
Yeah.
It was extra dangerous for him because it's the 1800s, right? Everyone around him is 5 feet tall. He is 6'4" with a top hat. So he literally, like the general at the Battle of Fort Stevens said, this can never happen again. You are the largest and most valuable target out here.
Yeah, like he's going to stand a head above everybody.
Literally, like
the top. Is he 6'4" with the top hat? Or
the top hat added some extra.
Oh,
so like literally, like you're trying to have a low profile and you have a giant walking across the battlefield.
No.
So yeah, that was the last time presidents were ever allowed on active military.
Okay.
So, yep.
Wow.
And that's Abraham Lincoln for you.
Wow. Look at that. What an interesting chart he has.
I'm fascinated by just the amount of stuff that he did and the amount of times that he like things that he did first, you know?
Yeah.
So
pioneering
like
spirit.
A pioneer. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Aquarius and Aries are like the big pioneers of our zodiac, I feel.
That's right.
Yeah. I threw that in for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't go unnoticed.
I know. You gotta stroke the Aries fire every now and then.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. Well, enjoy your full moon in Leo. Don't get too dramatic. If you stub your toe, like don't scare everybody in your family.
It's a kindness you do for everyone.
Yeah.
By honing it in.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna work on it.
And we have a really special guest for next week's episode.
Yes.
Which will be it's surrounding the tarot.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call
exactly.
that out.
We're going to have a guest and we're going to be talking about tarot next week.
Which is interesting.
History of tarot.
Astrology and tarot. We're really bringing the whole package.
Yeah, so tune in for that and we'll see you next week.
Unclouded Eyes stars Ashley Brooks and Ty Gowan. It's produced and directed by Nick Nordfors. Music is by Ashley Jane Cecilia and Jay Caron. And our community manager is Erin Cross. Our art is by Don Aquarius. And the show is presented by Haunt Me, which you can find on YouTube at Haunt Me Official. Follow Unclouded Eye on TikTok and Instagram at Unclouded Eye.